Peace be with you.
And also with you.
So good to have you here, especially in this cool space. It's a beautiful day out there. In a few weeks, I can't believe it's just going to be a few weeks, we'll be voting for leaders of our state and nation. Let's say a candidate running for president says, if any wish to vote for me, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. Vote for me. Does this person have your vote? The candidate goes on, don't run from suffering, embrace it. Follow me, and I'll show you. Self-help is no help at all. Self-sacrifice is the way. You still listening to this candidate? My way to saving yourself, your true soul. What good is it to get everything you want and lose you, the real you? What could you ever trade your soul for? Vote for me. Follow me. Follow me. Does this person have your vote? You're thinking about it. You're thinking about it. I don't know. Well, these are very hard and difficult words from Jesus in chapter 8 of Mark, and yet, these words, for me, for us, point to what really matters, We're being asked to touch the center of what is precious, what is real. And there's a lot of competing noise out there that can distract us from what is real and move us in different directions. Do you know who Erica Lee is? Erica Lee. She came up a lot in the news the last couple weeks, dominating our national and even international news. But the name behind it was hidden behind all that noise that's out there. Erica Lee, according to a local NBC news report, Erica Lee, a resident of Springfield, posted to Facebook commenting on a neighbor's cat who had gone missing, and mentioned that the neighbor had been suspicious that the cat might have been attacked by Haitians who lived in the neighborhood. That was Erica Lee. She was suspicious about a missing cat. She has now apologized, and she says she feels bad for what her posting caused, panic against that local Haitian community. She feels bad for the confusion and fear that her post caused, and this is what she said: it just exploded into something I didn't mean to happen. And as hateful as this has become, and as endangering to many people as this has become, it does spring from a real part of our conversations about how do we share, how do we love, what do we do, and our conversations about the border. Some people say that a very open border is not loving to the people already here, and others point out that a very closed border, well, that's not very loving to people escaping violence and great need where they are. Plus, a closed border will actually, economists say, actually hurt the U.S. economy that so needs these workers, and it will shrink. It's very complex. There's no real easy answers. But the underlying question about the economy, do we make decisions based on fear, on love? How do we go about making those decisions? We are being asked what really matters. What really matters? What is real? What is real? This past Friday, we were given another glimpse of what is real. We had the celebration of life for our beloved John Lasker, and his family tearfully lifted up, and a lot of you were there. It was very moving. I was very touched. A lot of people in his family lifted up. John was present. He was just like present for people to help them he had 100% of his attention when he was talking with you. And other people, his family couldn't believe this, but other people would say, John is legend. He's just legend. And they're like, my dad, legend? And they kept talking. Well, he really is legend. John is connector. He connects all these different communities. John is selfless. John is someone who would go on, he retired from dentistry just to go on to open part of a mobile dentistry clinic for very poor children in the inner city and in rural areas of New England. You know, that's John. That's John. And as I shared on Friday, those of you who know, it might come kind of a surprise to you, but the John I got to know, he was a bit opinionated, a bit opinionated. And there was a lot of the family members saying, well, yeah, that's true, that's true. And I shared how we would have Bible study right out there in the parlor, just right over there, and before the pandemic happened. And John was there all the time because he loved to connect. He loved to be there. He would bring the donuts, he'd bring the bagels, sometimes the coffee. And sometimes in the middle of Bible study, he would just say, Eric, I'm just sorry. He'd slam his hand down. We were like, okay, what's John going to say now? But, you know, those blankety-blank people and this over here and that over there, and I just have to get that off my chest because I'm just steamed up about this right now. And underneath all that, he had real questions. He had real questions about what was going on. And eventually we would go back to, well, what would Jesus do? And what's in the Bible? And a very gruff voice, very gruff voice. And then he would sometimes just throw in another illustration when he was a teenage boy helping his dad in the butcher shop in a neighborhood of Boston. We learned a lot about that shop at Bible study. A gruff voice, but all teddy bear love. And the family came up to me and said, thank you. That's John, a gruff teddy bear, a gruff teddy bear. Because he was all about what really mattered, you know, devoting his life to his beloved Cynthia, to their sons, their families, serving the hungry and homeless at Bristol Lodge Food Kitchen. People come up and say, he helped me out at church. He would help people out financially, always asking after other people at church. And again, helping the very poor with the skills that he had from a successful dentistry career, the very poor that could not afford any, let alone high quality dentist care. And as we celebrated the life of John on Friday, we were given a glimpse of what really matters, what really matters. This past week was another anniversary that opened my eyes to what really matters. What was the anniversary this past week? 9/11. How many years has it been? 23 years. 23 years. It's like almost a quarter century ago. There was an interview by Scott Simon on NPR. I don't know if you've listened to some of his interviews, and he was interviewing one of the firefighters on 9/11, John Fila, and he was working at the time with FDNY, Engine 54, Ladder 4, Battalion 9, and he was there in 2001, but on that day, he had switched around his shifts, a very common practice. He had to take his children someplace. And so 15 firefighters from his firehouse, all his closest buddies, they answered the bell when the first plane struck the first of those two towers that day at 8:46 a.m. And none of them came back. And John was explaining to Scott Simon on the NPR interview, said, I had taken my children to school, heard on the radio, there's a plane crash in the city. One of my friends called, says it's a lot bigger than the plane crash. Got in my car, headed in the city. Everything was in the air, ashes, smoke paper, people's papers from their desks. And John said, I knew there were people in that building that I saw come down, and I knew what they were doing. And I knew that my friends were going to try to save people, because that's what we do. That's what we do. And the interviewer, Scott Simon, notes that these 23 years later, John is a short, stocky, gray-haired man, and he talks about these events a lot over the last 20 plus years, but his eyes will still water. He continues, they put their life before anyone else's. And that is the most noble thing that anyone could ever do. And I talk about them because they deserve to be talked about. They did something extraordinary on that day. And he said people would ask us, knowing what happened, would you, if you could go back in time and you knew exactly what was going to happen, would you do it again? Would you still do it? And he says, absolutely, absolutely. That's why we're here. We're not going to stand outside and say, well, your brother, your child is upstairs. We're going to go back in. We do this because we're here to help people. We're here to be the guiding light for the people coming out. And that's what John says. I say their names all the time, all the time. He said their names all the time. It's a remarkable thing what they did. And the interviewer, Scott Simon, said, may I ask how your kids are doing? He says, they're great. They were on that September 11th, they were 5 and 3 years old. And then he goes silent, and he's just like gasping for breath. He says, but I get to see them. I get to see them. So what was happening in that interview? Why is he suddenly unable to catch his breath? Why? And there's like this 20-second gap on radio interview. It's grief, it's trauma, but it's also, and he points out that he has healed. He has great therapists and friends and people that love him, loving church, but he's touching upon what is real, what really matters. That reality of love, the reality of love. And he said of his colleagues, they put their life before someone else's, the most noble thing you could do. That's the center. That's what is real. That's what is real. Life is not only about looking out for number one, and we are supposed to love ourselves, but life is also looking out for others, to love your neighbor as you love yourself, which is so easy and so hard. It's so easy and it's so hard. Jesus points out to us what is real. If anyone want to become my followers and vote for me, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. For those who want to save their life are going to lose it. And those who lose their life for my sake and the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and lose who they really are? And this is the strange economy of the cross. That we don't profit by gaining power and wealth. We profit when we lose our priorities, putting the needs of others first. He said, this is why we do it. We're here to help people. And Payson Park people, this is why we are here. Not a profit and loss economy focused on me as number one, but to learn to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Again, the simplest and the hardest thing to do. That's why we keep coming back again on Sundays. That's why we're redundant. That's why we keep repeating lessons. It's so hard. It's so easy. Instead of making decisions within an economy of fear, we're invited to make decisions within an economy of love. And so people of Payson Park, that's also why I'm here. Wednesday was also another anniversary, is the anniversary of my ordination. 9/11 was my 9/11 before it was 9/11 for everybody else. Wednesday was the anniversary of my ordination to the Christian ministry of Word and Sacrament. And I am honored to be here today. I'm honored to be here. I didn't think I'd be talking, when I was ordained, talking online and in person at the same time. It's a strange world, it's a new world, lots of things happening, but I'm honored to be here. And I'm made hopeful by the way I see you touching what is real, doing what is real, living into this economy of love. That's why we're here. Thanks be to God.